Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 15 of the 2023 Giro d'Italia. Today's stage should be interesting. This is in the Lombardy region, and we all know about the famous number 5 monument, biggest one-day races in the World Tour of Lombardy. And today's stage 15 of the Giro is going to pass a lot of these roads and it's going to finish in Bergamo. Bergamo is a beautiful finish every time Lombardy comes in there. When I did the Giro in 2009, we finished in the same area, coming up the cobble climbs on the last 4 kilometers up to the finish. It take you up to about 3 kilometers to the top, and then you'll drop down out of the old town of Bergamo, and then you'll finish on a slight downhill run all the way into the finish after a last 700-meter left bend into the finish, that being the last obstacle on today's stage 15 of the Giro. Now, when the stage came on and the cameras start, we start looking there at Geraint Thomas on the massage table, and he's talking about how they're pretty much happy to have given away the pink jersey. I got to agree, if you're chasing a group as big as yesterday's stage and you have only 2 riders, 6 on the team total, but 2 that can really give up a lot of energy on yesterday's stage, you don't want to use up everything you got when you only have 6 riders on the team. Marvelous strategy to give up the jersey to Bruno Armai, who's here starting stage 15 on the pink bike for FDJ. Now, when the racing gets started, it's a little wet out there. Conditions seem pretty good, certainly fantastic compared to all the other 14 stages that have come before today, with the exception of day 1 when they had the individual time trial that Remco Evenepoel blitz. But when the racing gets going in this Lombardy region here of Italy, it is crazy. The roads are technical, the roundabouts, and with the wet roads, I've raced Tour of Lombardy at the finish of the season many times in these conditions. It's very difficult to keep the peloton bunched up, so you'll see it strung out at the beginning, and you'll see them going through roundabouts. Now, the first guys to throw out the attack, Ben Healy and Brandon McNulty from UAE Team Emirates, are interested in getting in the breakaway. This group of 3 will get brought back with Berwick in that group, and as the group gets brought back, some more attacks start happening right away, and Ben Healy and Simone Velasco from Astana are 2 riders going up the road. We look at the peloton, there's some trickling of riders coming out. It's going to be about 13 guys that trickle out of the peloton as we see the peloton curb to curb now. And then on the left side of the road, you're going to see the Green Project rider there, Marcellucci. Now, Marcellucci's pushing his way through the left there, just dodging the car. And you see the Jumbo-Visma rider that's giving a little nudge with his shoulder there, because Jumbo-Visma's at the front trying to shut everything down. Marcellucci's having none of it, and he shoots past the first rider on the front of the peloton, the next Jumbo-Visma riders. We see that rider looking left. He's a little angry with the hand coming out. But hey, if you guys are going to block the road and go curb to curb with basically 4 teams going curb to curb, you know there's going to be a little argy-bargy there in the Green Edge Project. He blows through and he starts trying to go solo up to the 13 group of riders and then the other 2 in front. Now, that's not going to be all said and done, because there's going to be one more rider that's going to try to blow out of this peloton. You see him go through the roundabout, and it's Movistar's Rubio. Now, he's already won a stage here, stage 13 of the Giro. You see him blitzing through the middle of the roundabout. As it comes out, there's a little island there, and then the peloton's coming back together, and Rubio just barely squeezes through as the peloton comes back together after this roundabout with the Movistar rider going full gas. Movistar rider will meet up with the Green Project rider Marcellucci up there, and those 2 riders are going to be stuck in the gap for a long time. We go up to the front. We see the 2 riders pulling hard up there because Ben Healy's trying to hold off a group of 13. This moment, probably not the best tactic. You probably should sit up as soon as the gap starts going up to about 2 minutes to the peloton. These 2 riders can really shut the gas off, but instead, Simone Velasco and Ben Healy from EF Education are pulling a little bit hard here when there's 13 riders chasing behind. The 13 and the 2 will come together just under 180 kilometers with about 175, 176 kilometers, I believe it was, where we'll see 15 riders come back together. In that group, and this is important, this is a Movistar rider, is JJ Rojas. You look at him, he's sitting on the back the whole time, but there was a little bit of arguing up front there for him to do some work, and he's saying, nah, man, I got Rubio coming, and he's the highest on the general classification because the kid is sitting 11th and 18 minutes back on the general classification. So keep that in mind, because JJ Rojas from Movistar, that's why you see him always sitting on the back of the group of 15 up front here, because he's waiting. Now we start looking back there. The 2 riders, Movistar and Green Edge, they start having a little bit of conversation. We see as Rubio starts looking back, and it looks like Marcellucci just doesn't have the legs to help out. Now Rubio is going to attack Marcellucci as the road starts to go up. You see him going through the caravan of cars that's following the 15 riders in front. Only problem is the cars have been stopped. It's called the blockade, which means he's not going to get any help from the cars to get up to this group that has his teammate J.J. Rojas sitting on the back. As the cars pull over to the right, Rubio's doing a full gas effort, everything he can to get up over this climb and get himself into this front group. And then finally, look at the picture. It's J.J. Rojas looking back at the back of the group because he knows Rubio's getting close. J.J. Rojas will drop back there and he'll get Rubio, stage winner of 13 here at the Giro d'Italia, and he'll pull his teammate back onto this front group to make 16 riders in the front group. Now these 16 riders working well together, everyone's taking pulls at the front more or less, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, 5 kilometers later, out of the blue comes the Green Edge Project, Marcellucci. Marcellucci will get on to make 17 riders in this front group. This was a solid ride back there from the Green Edge Project to get himself up into this breakaway. Now going up through the KOMs, not a whole lot is happening back there with the peloton because they're going curb to curb, but we will see FDJ start pulling when the gap gets at about 4-minute lead to this group of 17 riders up here. They start coming up to the KOMs and you're going to see some bumping and some grinding happening here between Rubio and Ben Healy, who are going full gas for the first KOM. With that bumping, there's a little bit of separation. Then Ben Healy punches it. He'll win the first KOM. When they come up to the second KOM, he'll win the second KOM too. And when I back the film up, we'll see Marcellucci, who's just having all kinds of problems on these 2 different KOMs, getting dropped, somehow coming back on, getting dropped, and somehow coming back on throughout this stage 15 of the first 2 big climbs here in the Tour of Lombardy region. Now, once we go over the top of the second KOM, there's a crash. Inside that crash, it's important. It's UAE team members. Brandon McNulty kept his bike upright, but went into the fencing there and hit it hard with his left elbow. Down in front of him, it's going to be 2 Israel Premier Tech riders. That's Berwick there and Frigo. Berwick went down and hit the ground, and then we look, it's the Astana rider, Velasco, that went down hardest of this group of about 4 riders getting tied up in this crash. Up front, when they're bombing down this descent, it's Intermarché on the front. That's Bonificio up there. He's going full gas. And this is going to cause some damage back there because Brandon McNulty's going to have to spin some chips to get himself back up to this front group. Lucky for Brandon McNulty, had a couple other guys chasing back on that got caught up in that crash. And eventually he'll come back on as they hit the next climb. Now, when we get into the next climb, this thing starts settling out, mellowing out again as we're going up over this climb. We get into about 50 kilometers to go, and they're going to pass today's finish line here in Bergamo with a solid gap on the peloton behind. This just directly after the finish line, this is when we're going to see the first real attack here out of this group. It's going to be from Bonificio Intermarché. He's a sprinter, so he's got to get a ton of time on this group behind if he wants to get up to this next climb that starts with 40 kilometers to go, and it's a 10-kilometer climb with solid percentage because this is a Category 2. Bonificio's up there solo trying to hold off the group behind, and every time we look at the camera, really it's J.J. Rojas on the front that's keeping everything together. Other guys rotated through, of course, but Movistar rider J.J. Rojas was the glue that kept this distance at just about a minute gap to Bonificio. Once the last 40-kilometer big climb starts here on stage 15, this is when we're going to start seeing attacks. It's going to be Frigo up there for Israel Premier Tech that throws in the first attack. Brandon McNulty's just a little bit off to the right. He'll start trying to go solo up to Frigo. What's happening behind? Well, Movistar rider Rubio sitting on the front trying to bring this group back, and on his wheels got Ben Healy. Ben Healy calculated here wrong. He's sitting on Rubio up front as he's hoping that the Movistar rider can bring these 2 back. Eventually he realizes he can't, and as the group is starting to blow up from the back, there was only 8 guys really left up there with Movistar when he was pulling. But with the attack of Ben Healy, he's going full gas. Guys, this was an impressive acceleration from Ben Healy, the EF Education rider, as he leaves Rubio behind, and now he's going solo up, trying to get up to Brandon McNulty. Now, back the film up just a little bit, because as Frigo attacked, that's when he brought back Bonificio, and Brandon McNulty passed Bonificio too. So now, with Ben Healy going full gas, it'll take him about just over 1K to get all the way up to Brandon McNulty. Once he gets there, we got 3 riders in the front group. Then Brandon McNulty throws in a little acceleration and attack. I didn't think this was a very good move at the time, but he gets a little attack. Then we see Ben Healy bridge up to Brandon McNulty, and Ben Healy's going to make Brandon pay for this mistake. As Ben Healy throws in attack, he gets a gap right away on the UAE team member. It's rider Brandon McNulty. And then we'll see just from behind Frigo, Israel Premier Tech is doing a solid job of pacing himself to get back up to Brandon McNulty. So we got 2 riders chasing one Ben Healy up front. Now Brandon McNulty, he'll dislodge with an attack back there on Frigo. Then Brandon McNulty's trying to go solo to bring back Ben Healy. At this point in time, commentators, myself included, sitting on the Chesterfield, I'm like, I don't know if you can catch this guy Ben Healy, because we've already seen him do 50K out front, holding off groups behind. But this is Brandon McNulty. This is a solid climber here, but I still don't know for sure if you can bring back Ben Healy, and I'm thinking Ben Healy might have himself a stage win as he goes over the top of the KOM solo. Just behind that was Brandon McNulty, and the gap starts coming down to about 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Behind him is Frigo. Frigo has not given up here for Israel Premier Tech. I don't know where this guy's quality of class comes from, but he's going deep here for Italy as he's trying to win a stage victory at the Giro d'Italia. 30 seconds behind the first rider of Ben Healy, 15 behind Brandon McNulty. And then all of a sudden, with about 26 kilometers to go, Brandon McNulty pulls back Ben Healy. Ben Healy starts making mistakes. He's already made mistakes earlier in today's race, and I'll talk about those later. But right now, he's doing the whole descent on the front here with Brandon McNulty, UAE team member, sitting on his wheel. That's a lot of energy. They'll come out of the bottom of this big descent, and then as they get into the flat section, we'll see Brandon McNulty start doing some work up there with Ben Healy. Behind, Frigo has not quit. The Italian rider is going deep, trying to get back up to give himself a shot at a victory here. He'll catch these guys with about 10 kilometers to go. And then we see a little bit of game tactics being played as Ben Healy looks back, left over his shoulder. Frigo shakes his head. No, I am not taking a pull with you guys. Rightfully so. I agree with you. Great tactic right here from Frigo. Well, we see Ben Healy slot behind Brandon McNulty. Now all of a sudden it's just two guys working, one guy sitting on. Then Ben Healy must have been getting a little upset with the situation, and this was another big tactical mistake from Ben Healy as he pulls over to the right side of the road. Look at the left. That's Brandon McNulty, and we got about 7 kilometers to go. Brandon McNulty throws in a little bit of acceleration there. Then we see the hesitation from the two behind because Ben Healy wants Frigo to come through. Frigo's got every right to sit on. He's been dropped and abused going up the last 10-kilometer climb here on stage 15. There's no reason I'd take a pull ever throughout the finish of this whole stage 15. Then we see Ben Healy throws in a big acceleration to bring back Brandon McNulty, which he does. But Frigo's sitting back there getting a free ride the whole time as Ben Healy is doing another big effort here on stage 15. Now, Frigo, to my disbelief, he starts pulling coming into this last climb. Probably spends about a few hundred meters on the front before we start this last 4-kilometer to go in stage 15. Now, this last finish is a famous one, and it's about 1.3 kilometers long. Cobblestones at the beginning, and then gets really steep at the end as they enter the old town here of Bergamo. We'll see Frigo on the front, and he'll go through the cobblestone, make the right turn as the hill starts to get steeper. Ben Healy goes to work. He throws in the acceleration hard, trying to get rid of Brandon McNulty. The only guy coming off, though, is Frigo. We'll go through the town arches into the old town, and then we see Ben Healy looking back again. He's got one more big little stiff climb here to get rid of Brandon McNulty. An EF Education rider digs deep, but Brandon McNulty's solid on his wheel. They come out of the old town area as they go into the left bend to come to the top of the hill. They're not quite out of the old town, and it's Ben Healy still on the front. Now, Brandon McNulty sitting second wheel and not taking a pull at all. We look behind. I told you, Frigo already got popped, but he's still going deep here for Italy, trying to bring that stage victory as he's about 20 seconds behind the two riders in front. They'll start the descent, just under 3 kilometers to go. As they start the descent, we look at the front. Ben Healy still pulling Brandon McNulty. This moment, this is not a very good tactic for Ben Healy. A lot of times the commentators, they're Irish, right? Sean Kelly and British commentators on GCN, they're talking about the speed of Ben Healy. Well, I don't know exactly how fast Ben Healy is because most of the time he's finishing races solo. But I have seen a lot of speed out of Brandon McNulty, especially at the Giro d'Italia in years past when he's held off and went top podiums here at stages of the Giro. So I know Brandon McNulty's got at least a little bit of speed. He's certainly not slow. Coming down the descent, we'll see the tight technical turns. You look back there, Frigo's going full gas trying to get back up to these guys. He's hanging it all out, guys. We're coming under 2 kilometers to go. You look at the gap there, he could see the two riders in front. Once we come into the 700 meters, left bend here, you look and all of a sudden you see Ben Healy still on front, pulling on front up the final climb, down the descent. Now he's still on the front with 700 meters to go. Look behind, that's the motorcycle camera right there, and Frigo is coming up with a lot of speed. I told you guys it's a downhill finish into the line here of stage 15, and Frigo is taking advantage of everything he possibly can of the draft off the motorcycles. We see Ben Healy look back, so he knows he's back there. We see Brandon McNulty look back at about 600 meters, so he knows he's back there. And then we see that it's Frigo flying past the motorcycle, flying onto the back there of Brandon McNulty with a lot of speed. As he comes off of Brandon McNulty's wheel, look up front, we see Ben Healy's looking back. He knows what's happening, and he's in big time trouble because we're getting under 600 meters to go as the big first attack to the line is coming from Frigo. Frigo has done an amazing job, and now he's coming with a ton of speed with the slingshot off the motorcycle, the slingshot off of Brandon McNulty. You know he's going faster than Ben Healy. Frigo goes to the left side of the road, all the way full sprinting to the line. Then we see Ben Healy does the first big acceleration to try to get on the wheel there of Frigo to the line from Israel Premier Tech. Only problem is, look, it's about 2 bike lengths off. Ben Healy's digging deep to try to bring back the Italian rider up front. We got the American rider on back, Brandon McNulty, who hasn't had to take a pull throughout this final 3 kilometers here at stage 15. And now all of a sudden, with about 150 meters, 200 meters to go, Brandon McNulty, as Ben Healy's pulling back Frigo, not quite has him back yet, Brandon McNulty starts his sprint. We look about 75 meters to go. They're three wide. 50 meters to go. Brandon's got a little bit of nudge over everybody. 10 meters to go. Brandon McNulty's setting up, celebrating stage 15 victory of the Giro d'Italia in Bergamo. Now, guys, it's always great to win a stage of the Giro, but it's really great when you win in one of these famous towns like Bergamo that's been used throughout the bike racing histories of Tour of Lombardy and Giro d'Italia. So this is a big-time win. Just behind Brandon McNulty, Ben Healy will round out the stage for second. Then the podium back there, of course, is going to be Frigo, Israel Premier Tech, who will cross the line. In the interviews afterwards, Brandon McNulty, very excited, talked about how he came to this Giro to win a stage and then focus on helping Almeida try to win the general classification. We see the interview from Ben Healy. He admits he did some mistakes. Talks about how he should have never stayed with Rubio. But he did a lot of mistakes. Guys, when he was in the 2-rider group at the very beginning, with 200 kilometers into this stage, he was pulling hard with 13 riders chasing, probably for about a 5, maybe 8 kilometer distance there, where he could have backed off, saved his legs a little bit. He used a ton of energy going for the KOM classification, which isn't really necessarily wrong if you want to win the KOM classification here at the Giro, but if you want to win today's stage, there was a ton of energy at all the KOMs spent fighting against Rubio. He sat on Rubio's wheel going up the 10-kilometer big climb before the finish of today's race, and then had to waste 1K going across. After that, he spent time when he was playing games back there with 7 kilometers to go with Frigo, and then of course he pulled 3K all the way into the finish with Brandon McNulty sitting on his wheel. I said during Amstel Gold that I thought Ben Healy tactically raced beautifully, but here Ben Healy raced pretty much like a knucklehead amateur here at stage 15. Had fabulous legs, there's no doubt about that, but his tactics and the amount of energy he spent here at stage 15 will be memorable to the Irish rider, because he knows why he lost today's stage, spending that many chips throughout the race. Now, what was happening in the GC battle? I told you FDJ was riding on the front. They rode all day. Then when we got into the final 10-kilometer big climb here near the end of stage 15, we saw Jumbo-Visma come to the front, but just to keep Primoz Roglic out of trouble. Then FDJ was back on the front. Then we went up this last 4 kilometers to the finish when they're hitting the cobblestone climb. Well, Jumbo's going full gas back there. Primoz Roglic finally throwing in attack here. This is what we really want to see, the GC battle. Primoz Roglic got it all strung out. Eddie Dunbar, Jaco Lula rider throwing in an acceleration as the field back there of GC favorites is getting strung out. Next rider to throw in attack, Almeida, the Portuguese rider for UAE Team Emirates, whose teammate Brandon McNulty just got done winning the stage. He's flying up the road, and with him flying up the road, 7 riders on his wheel. Look back there, though. It's Leonard Kamna, Bora Hansgrohe, top 10 on the general classification, can't hold the speed, coming up through the old town of Bergamo as he starts opening up the gap. That'll cause a split up front, and we see as they come out with about 3 kilometers to go in today's stage 15. Up front, Almeida's going full gas. He's got some company with a lot of the GC favorites, though, because Primoz Roglic is locked on his wheel. Eddie Dunbar's there, Caruso's there, Geraint Thomas is there. To my disbelief, Warren Barguil, or Kes Samsic, last rider. He's 8th rider in this group, holding on for dear life, and he's there. But behind, Leonard Kamna has been gapped off. Now they come down the descent. Almeida's on the front pulling like crazy for Portugal. And then we see just coming into the finish, Caruso will help out with about 600-700 meters to go. Garrett Thomas will jump on the front just near the finish of the line, but look behind. It's Leonard Camden there trying to close the gap. He's got it almost closed, and then he gets some help from Thibaut Pinot, FDJ, who left his race leader's jersey while wearing pink back there to defend for himself, to my disbelief. Actually, I thought it would happen, but I still can't believe it would happen. But as they're coming into the finish, the group of 8 of GC favorites will put about 2 seconds on the group being led in there by Thibaut Pinot with Leonard Camden, the GC favorite, locked in that group. Now, pink jersey, what happened? Well, I told you Thibaut Pinot abandoned him, and I don't like that tactic at all, especially when the team did a great job of getting the pink jersey all the way into the bottom with 4 kilometers to go, going up the cobble finish here on stage 15. Bruno Armai, though, will pull this group all the way into the finish and lose about 30 seconds, but he will keep the pink jersey here wrapped up tight for FDJ at least through the rest day tomorrow. Now, why didn't I like Thibaut Pinot leaving his pink jersey back there to defend on his own? Well, Bruno Armai is a dedicated lieutenant that, of course, FDJ have used throughout his time on the team here, and I think you respect the pink jersey. Now, if it's 2 climbs before, sure, you leave him behind. But when you got 4 kilometers to go on today's stage and you got the pink jersey there and you have told everybody in the press, Thibaut Pinot has, that, well, I don't mind giving up 30 seconds here or there to stay safe. I don't mind losing a bit of little time so that I don't crash. But you don't mind losing a little bit of time, a few seconds, to go back there and help the pink jersey, because you've already said multiple times you're not racing for the general classification. He's interested in KOM and he's interested in winning stages. But yet today, for some reason, he was interested in being in the second group back there with Leonard Camden chasing the first group of GC favorites, while pink jersey was back there losing time. There's no way Pink can lose enough time because he was 1 minute and 40 seconds up on Garrett Thomas. So there's no way he can lose Pink. He can just lose a lot more time. And that time might be important come these next mountain stages if the GC guys don't start lighting them up. But either way, especially from Thibaut Pinot, 4 kilometers to go, and have bragged about how unimportant it is to lose 30 seconds as long as you can stay safe, but you can't lose 30 seconds to help your teammate wearing pink. I think that's a no-no and a knucklehead move again from Thibaut Pinot here on stage 15. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. The Butterfly Effect is coming every day. Tomorrow's beyond the coverage, of course, but the Butterfly Effect will come for the next day of the Giro d'Italia. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon on the next edition.